Hey fellow explorers, welcome to another episode of Travel Tips by Chris, and in this episode I'm going to be sharing with you everything you need to know to make travel videos that you're actually proud of and that other people want to watch. In this video I'll be taking you on a deep dive from everything in travel videography and travel video creation, from ideation, the idea before you press record, to picking up your camera, recording the video, to what you do afterwards to edit it and turn it into something that's a amazing masterpiece. All right, if you're watching the live stream, look forward to hearing your questions. If you're watching the archive and you want to jump around a day or two after this is published, there'll be some table of contents for all the different chapters. All right, but the first area I want to talk about before we get into cameras and gear and lights and sound and editing and all that stuff is what you do before you press record, and that is coming up with the idea for your travel video. And so what do you want to capture? What is the point? Is the goal of your travel video to educate viewers on a specific place? Is it to educate them on your personal experience? Is it to talk about cultural elements or local traditions or festivals or cuisine? What really got me into actually thinking about making this video was a couple weeks ago was VidCon, the annual conference to online video, and somebody said to me, Chris, I'm thinking about getting into travel video creation. I have a bunch of clips that I've recorded from all of my trips, and I don't know what to do with them. What should I do? And of course, in my head, I'm thinking oh, that's hard. If you don't know what you're shooting, if you don't know what you're recording, it's really hard to just piece a bunch of random video into something that you're gonna be proud of and that other people are actually gonna want to watch. But to just kind of show you the vastness of travel content creation, here on the screen, I've got some different videos pretty much all shot in and around Tokyo, certainly all of them in Japan. And these are all travel videos about Japan. The first one that we see in the upper left, this one intends to be a informative travel guide. Everything you need to know to go to Japan that I shot in Tokyo. It's entirely shot in Tokyo. And then in Tokyo, I also shot a video about everything you need to know to go to Tokyo. But, videos don't just have to be about the specific place, although they can be. They can also be things like this that I call a listicle. 17 common mistakes you need to know that are Japan travel fails. This one's a more fun-hearted, light take on it. Or in the vlog nature, I've been making these recently the past few years. In addition to making the informative videos, diving into just picking up the camera and capturing what goes on in our trip, because people often say, Chris, I'd like to see the whole thing from beginning to end and how you piece that together. And so that one is a much more talking to the camera as if it's my friend. But we're doing a lot of driving, and so maybe we make a video about how to drive, and maybe there's a specific attraction right here behind my head about hey, maybe we like this one, and so this one's just a walking tour. This one, I just pick up the camera and walk through this place and narrate while I go. There's a ton of different things you can create, but you need to have that idea before you go in. Now, if it's a live stream like this is certainly a travel video, although I'm not anywhere. I'm at home. You can make travel videos while you're at home, but you need to think about something that you can talk about at home that makes sense. Typically, travel planning type things make sense done at home. Typically, things about credit cards, saving money, packing. There's a lot of travel-related stuff that you can do from the comfort of your own four walls. Now, if it's a short, if it's a vertical, tall video, then it needs to be something, a complete story or an idea that you can tell in 10 seconds to 3 minutes, because that's the length you've got for a short or a reel. And in that case, it's got to be much more punchier, much more snappier. But I also think that it's important in travel videos to, when you're coming up with this idea and you're shooting it and doing the whole thing, to realize that the video in a travel category is more about the place and the destination than it is about you. I mean, sure, you're a character, and I'm in all my travel videos. It's kind of amazing how that works. But here, this video we did at the Shot of Art, this was the thumbnail we were taking, me and the Curious Princess and I, and you realize, what do we put in the center? Well, the place, because it's actually not just about us. We kind of put ourselves off on the side so you can tell we're characters in it, but it's actually about doing this interesting creative art here. And so just thinking about you being, or you or your family or your group or your friends being a character in that adventure in that particular place, destination, eating that food, whatever it may be. And so this often happens, like, you ever dive into a travel video and it starts in like a hotel room and the person tells you how they slept last night and you've never watched the video and you don't know them, and so what do immediately? You quick click off because you were expecting a video about Osaka, or you were expecting a video about Manila, and you just find out someone in the hotel room telling you how they slept last night, right? Like, so I also think when you think about architecting the video, if it's about a thing, a place, a food, like when the video starts, it's got to be in that place so that people know you're actually there. Okay, so the second thing that you need to do when you're ideating is you also need to then like research, because if it's about travel, you need to know what you want to say. And so to make an informative travel guide if you're going for the informal side, requires research. Now, if you're doing a vlog about like, this is just everything we experienced, maybe you don't even research. You know, you could totally do a video about, I showed up at the Tokyo airport and I've done no research and I don't even know how to get to my hotel, and we're just gonna figure it out. Like, that could be the thing. But if you are going for information or if you wanna go to the best places, I like to research. And so where do I go? I go to certainly YouTube to look at other videos. I go to WikiTravel, I go to Wikipedia, I read blogs, I read TripAdvisor, I read Flyer Talk, and you know what? I even read some books. I really like Rick Steves' books, the old school Rick Steves travel guides, really great for Europe. And then I will put all of that information into a Google document. My Google document, will look something like this. I wouldn't call it a script, but I call it an outline. And so this is for my Taipei travel tips video in Taipei, Taiwan. 10 things to know before you go. And before I go, I've got probably 10 pages of notes about what I'm going to put into this video. And then what you see here, this is actually the final outline as it's done. It didn't start like this. It starts with a rough idea of what I want to say in the background, and it starts with a rough idea of what I want to say in orientation. But then as I get there and experience the place, I flesh it out and make those notes better so that when I turn on the camera and record, I'm not going through 27 takes about what to say. I've generally thought about what I want to say, and I can look at these notes and then go like, okay, let's go ahead and deliver that. The reason why I use Google Docs is because then it's really easy to pull up on my Android phone while I'm right there. Look at it that way. If you're an Apple, you can use like, what, Apple Notes, Apple Sheet. I don't know. Not an Apple guy. I say I'm not an Apple guy as I have an iPad right here that I draw all my little fun doohickeys on. But I don't take this out and read my scripts from it while I'm on the road. Oh, I guess I could. It'd be too big though. You ever see those people that are out there and they're taking pictures with their iPad? What do you think of? You're like, is that the best device that you have to take pictures? Okay. In my list of things that I'll put in there, in addition to just what I'm gonna say, is I'll typically also put destinations I want to go to. I'll put the name, I'll put the address, I'll put the neighborhood, the subway stop, the website link, and sometimes even pictures of things in this Google document. By the way, for this live stream that I'm doing today, my outline for this live stream is 15 pages, in case you're wondering. Okay. The other thing I do going on a travel extravaganza is I use Google Maps and I put in a bunch of pins of all the potential attractions that I might want to go to as I'm making the video, or things that I will go to or have to go to. And so these are my pins in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. And you can see I've got like a food court here that I want to go to. I've got like a temple that I want to go to. I've got like a botanical garden that I want to go to. Obviously, I talk about all of these things in the past tense I want to go to because that's how I put them on there. And I've already been there, but I didn't make it to all these things. Like I didn't make it to this market. I didn't make it to this restaurant. I put more on here than I could possibly do, but so that wherever I am, I might be like, oh, that place that I wanted to check out. And again, it's really easy to just pull up on the phone. If I'm nearby for some reason, I can just go ahead and hit that place up and don't have to do my research while I am out and about in the city. Kathy asks, how do I pin in Google Maps? So like when you click on a thing, like a destination, like you search for the restaurant, then you can click save, and then you can make different lists that you want to save it in, and then different icons go with the different lists. There's like flag, and there's like stars, and there's like hearts, and so sometimes I'll use those different icons to represent different things. All right, so I would encourage you to use that feature. Okay. So, those are some of the things you should do before you start on your travel video. Now, before we get into actual like recording, let's talk about some gear. What do you need to use to record these things? And so I'm gonna divide this gear section into 3 big areas: cameras, stability like tripods, and then finally audio or microphones. And so first, let's talk about cameras, and let's talk about what your what most people should probably get started with, because it's what everybody has in their pocket. It's their smartphone. I use the Samsung Galaxy Ultra series. OC Girl in her pocket is an iPhone. We will use both to record. They record pretty well. What they're not super great at, they're not super great in low light. They're not super great recording a long time. You can't change the batteries. The microphones on them aren't all that great, but that's not to say that you can't make them great. You can do lots of things with smartphones. Like even here, you know, if you're getting really crazy with it, you can even like rig up an iPhone to have an external microphone and have an external lens and put it on a tripod, so you can get pretty crazy about it. But I will say that smartphones are generally a great place to start. We'll talk about some of the things you might want to do to level up your smartphones, but if you're just trying to figure out how you get started, just get started with the device that's in your pocket or in your purse or in your merce. That's your man purse. It's your satchel for the Indiana Jones fans out there. An upgrade that you might take depending upon the type of content that you make from the phone could be an action camera. Certainly GoPro over here made action cameras famous, but there's other companies that have kind of like come into the action camera space. I've used GoPros for a long time. I tend to use them for like underwater videos, things, or it's gonna be wet a lot because they're waterproof. I'll suction cup it to the car if I want to get driving scenes. I have recently, for the Hawaii Big Island trip, I got the DJI Action 5 that I really liked. I actually like this a lot better than the GoPro. I feel like the software on the GoPro had just gotten really old and buggy, and so I enjoyed the DJI Action 5. But those are some of the ones in action cameras that you pick because you want to do something rough and rugged and be able to like throw these things around or take them underwater and have them not break. The cons of these things is you typically don't get to zoom. The lens isn't that great. The audio is awful. The battery life doesn't last long. So they have their cons too. Every one of these has cons. Now let's talk about mirrorless cameras. So this is where you get into a little bit more of the pro type camera, and generally these have like some kind of removable lenses on them so that you can have a wide angle lens, you can have a telephoto lens. These are gonna be more expensive, these are gonna be heavier, these are also gonna attract a lot more attention. So if you're in a restaurant or a place like this, people tend to be like, sir, do you have a permit? What are you shooting? What are you recording? Whereas if you're just recording on your phone, people don't say a thing. Everybody records on their phone. I have been told to put this away so many times that for most of my travel trips now, I don't bring this anymore because it just attracts too much attention. Instead, I use the phone, and I also use this one here, which is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I got a picture of that right there. It's in a case right here, so it looks a little bit different. This is the creator combo on this, so it's a little bit bigger than the one in the picture. This is probably the most popular vlogging camera for beginner and intermediate YouTubers right now. If you get it with the creator combo, it comes with an extra battery and it comes with a wireless mic. The camera on it is just like a gimbal. It's basically like what would be on a drone, except it's just on a little stick. I record all my walking tours with this, and I record a lot of the A-roll of my main videos with this too, because it has the wireless microphone built in. There's no dongle, there's no extra connection. You just turn it on and all of a sudden it's capturing audio wirelessly, which is really great when you're out and about so people can hear you. But we're going to talk more about cameras in a little bit. But people who are getting started, if they say, Chris, I want to upgrade to a camera from my phone, what should it be? DJI Osmo Pocket 3. There's my recommendation for you. I've had all of the DJI Osmo Pockets. I've had the 1, I've had the 2. The 3 is definitely superior because it has the bigger screen. Finally, the other kind of like cool tool to use in your travel kit is it's not just one camera. As you get into this, you're like, well, to get this shot, I want this, and to get this shot, and I want this, and to get this shot, I want this, are drones. Drones, they're flying cameras. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I use the DJI Mini series. You know, if you're for the stuff that you're creating, if you're watching this video, like trying to figure out how I make videos that I'm proud of and that people actually want to watch, then honestly, the cheapest drones are probably going to be good enough for you just to get that like establishing shot. I would say these used sparingly can be pretty good. Used a long time, you can waste all your time flying your drone around, actually not capturing any good video for travel content, but I feel like they have a purpose. But I tend only to use them in like very sparsely populated areas, because if you try to use them in big cities and near airports, then you just get in trouble with the police, and nobody wants their vacation to end that way, in trouble with the police. Okay, now let's talk about stability, keeping your shots smooth. So nobody wants to watch footage that is just shaking around. You know, there's like Chris is there. It's an earthquake. You know, nobody wants to watch that, right? So like smooth footage is much more pleasing as the viewer to watch. And so how do you get smooth footage? Certainly one is you can put your camera or your phone or whatever you're recording from on some kind of tripod. This is the Peak Design Travel Tripod. I really like this one for traveling. If you're looking for a travel tripod, the Peak Design Travel Tripod carbon fiber is the way to go if money is no object. If you are, you know, you don't need something that big, you can get like a little Manfrotto tripod right here. There's a tiny little tripod with a phone holder right on top. So sometimes I'll take this and just put it in a restaurant. That way I can record myself with my phone at the restaurant, just like that. I can put it like this. I can do it in kind of like tall mode, just like that. Easy to stick in my bag. The other thing to think about are these kind of like, I call them hybrid devices, but the Joby GorillaPod is something that Casey Neistat made famous. It's this small tripod that has bendy legs around. You can like wrap it around a tree. It's pretty good to just get your camera a little further away from you than your hands, so you can get like a wider shot of you if you're vlogging. Also selfie sticks, and you can put tripods on the bottom of selfie sticks, and so that right there, that is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 on a selfie stick. This is the Insta360 selfie stick with a Joby 1K ball head on top, so that I can kind of move it around and direct it. And that is generally what I'm actually walking around with to shoot my self-vlog things, is this DJI Osmo Pocket on the Insta360 selfie stick with the Joby 1K ball head. Alex on the live stream says he's excited to see the new Peak Design Pro tripod. I can't remember if it's the official name, but the Kickstarter for it, I can't imagine it'll be more than the carbon fiber tripod. Alex, I have already pre-ordered it. So when I get one, you can be sure I'll be making a review of it. And Alex says the Peak Design gear is the best money I've ever spent. Yes, it is. It is not cheap for sure, but they are worth it, and they last a long time. Grant asked if you can monitor the audio on the screen. So on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 here, if you're recording with the built-in mic, you can't. But if you're recording with the wireless mic, at the moment that you turn the wireless mic on, then up on the screen, this is zooming into my face, so I gotta put it here. Up on the screen, you see there's these little bars that go across on the top. That's the audio bars right there. So yes, that's one of the things I love about this, is you can tell that you're actually getting your wireless audio into the camera. So super, super huge feature when you're recording for yourself, knowing that you're actually getting the audio. Okay, and Grant says, I see the green bar. Awesome. Awesome. My pleasure, Grant. Eileen says, I had a DJI Osmo 2, so the one before this one with a backpack clip, so that I could walk around hands-free. That's a cool idea too, and because it's got the gimbal on it, it makes the footage smooth just by default. This is also great if you're having other people help you record, because you can give it to them and they don't have to hold it steady. You can kind of wobble it around. It's got the gimbal built in, and it generally records pretty steady footage, even in the hands of a novice. Okay, so if you want, like, this is now going into more of the advanced thing, but like if you want like the smoothest footage, and you're not using the Pocket 3 that has a built-in gimbal, you can get an external gimbal. You can get a device that looks like this. This was in my thumbnail of the video. This is the DJI RS3. It's a gimbal that's suitable for bigger cameras. So the mirrorless camera that I showed you before, like the Sony a7S III, it'll keep things buttery smooth. They're really heavy. They're really heavy, and they're really big, and they're really bunky. They're really bulky, and they're a hassle to travel around. But if you see people and they're doing like travel videos for real, and they're like, you know, well, for real, I don't do travel videos for real. mine are just, it's just, I don't know, what do I do this for? This is like a carnival or something like that. But anyway, like when you see people and they have like a crew, you know, they've got like a dedicated camera person and a dedicated audio person, they'll generally be walking around with a camera on a gimbal because that's all they're doing all day. And so if one person's just carrying it, they don't need to pack it up and they can just hold it around all day, then this works well. I use this if I'm doing like Christmas lights at night. I'm going there, I'm just shooting, I'm not traveling, I don't need to put it in a backpack. Points Traveler said this live stream brought to you by DJI. This video is not sponsored by DJI, but I guess it could be. All right, there we go. Jet and Compass says it looks heavy. Yeah, you definitely get your muscles working out. Okay, so now that we talked about cameras, we talked about stability. Now the final compliment is audio, and audio really is half the video. So I said nobody's gonna watch a video if it's super shaky. Also, nobody's gonna watch a video if they can't hear it, they can't understand it because the audio is bad or windy or quiet or garbled up. So investing in a microphone is the second investment you should make after you invest in a camera. When I first started doing my walking tours, the tech wasn't as good, and so to capture audio when I did my walking tours, I would have this wireless headset mic because it was really good. Like it had really good audio. It made me look stupid, but you could hear me. And so that was one of the things I've said about my walking tours that I think levels them up from many other walking tours on YouTube is having commentary, not just a video that has like natural sounds, but like I talk about the stuff as we go. So in order to do that, I need to be able to capture the audio. Things, if you're getting started on a phone that you can look at. This video's brought to you by DJI, although it's not, but I'm gonna first start with the DJI mic. How do you get a microphone, a better microphone onto this? Well, the DJI Mic 2 is one great example. This is the DJI Mic 2 kit. That's the price from B&H, $249. This video is not sponsored by B&H, but it also could be. All right. The cool thing about the DJI Mic 2, it comes in this little charging case right here. There are 3 things in it. There are 2 microphones. This is a microphone right here. The other side is another microphone right over here. This is what you'll often see clipped on my chest. It's got a magnet on it, so you can put a magnet behind your t-shirt too. And then this piece right here, this is the receiver, and it has 2 connectors in the box. It has a lightning connector and a USB-C connector. You take out the USB-C connector, you slide it into this, and then you plug this into the USB-C port on your phone, and then voila, all of a sudden when you go to record video, it'll come up and it'll say, well, the port on this phone is dirty, so the connection doesn't work. But if I put on my other phone, it would say audio being recorded via USB microphone. The challenge of doing this, and why I like the Pocket 3 better, that integrates with the with the wireless mic is I don't have to plug anything in, and so the connectors never get dirty, and I never have that issue. But this is a solid wireless microphone. I also like that you can see the audio bars right up here and down here, so you can tell whether the microphone's on and whether it's getting it to the receiver. To prove that this video is not stealthily sponsored by DJI, because you know there's people who like accuse you and be like, Chris, you're just paid by all of these companies, and it turns out not. I also like the Rode, what's this one called? The Rode Wireless Micro. This one is a lot smaller than the DJI. This one also, this is a charging case, so it'll charge it while it's in here. This one has two little microphones. The microphones are smaller than the DJI microphones, and you know, again, you can just kind of like clip that on your shirt right there, and then this one has a smaller connector to go on the phone like this. This phone connector doesn't have any power. It doesn't charge, but you can tell it's working because it lights up right there, and that means it's getting is this one on? That means it's getting a sync from this right here. And this just turns on when you take it out of the case. It's very simple. There's no buttons, there's no screens, there's none of this, there's no that. It makes it cheaper, makes it more foolproof, but if you want to like fiddle around and change audio levels and this and that, then it's not as good as the DJI. What I like about this wireless micro being smaller is if I'm going to like a restaurant and I want to record a short in the restaurant, I can slip these in my pockets. I like cargo pockets right here, so I put my phone right in this. Put my phone right in there, and then I take the wireless micro right here, and I put it in the other cargo pocket, and there we go. I'm good to go. It is important to use the windscreens though. This is a little windscreen that goes on that wireless micro, so that's unfortunately that doesn't fit in the case, which is annoying. So I stick these in a Ziploc bag to have them together, so I can put that windscreen on the microphone so it's not windy. In the chat. Drew, thank you for your support. Drew says, I'm sad to report that Chris does not enjoy double doubles from In-N-Out while making travel videos. It is hard to eat the double double while making the travel video at the same time, but I can drink. I'm thirsty. What am I drinking today? Today I am drinking a Thai tea from TPT. And so Drew, thank you so much for your support, either to support the Thai tea or to support a double double that I'll have on you tomorrow, Drew. Thank you so much. Okay. This is, okay, so microphones. So we talked about wireless microphones. If you've got like more of a dedicated camera, then you might want to consider actually getting like an on-camera microphone right up there. You can see in this picture, I have a camera similar to this one that I have in my hand that has a microphone up on the front, a boom microphone like that. It's a directional microphone, so that'll pick up audio in front of the camera, not behind the camera. Won't pick up a lot of extraneous sound, so that's pretty good if you're in like a place that you don't want to like clip something on you, or it's too hard to clip something on you, or if you're in a place like a convention where there's a lot of like wireless interference, then these wireless mics aren't that good because there's like too many other like Wi-Fi devices and things like that, and then these tend not to work as well. Although, side note, and this is probably more like the advanced section, you can, on some of these, actually record directly on the device. You can see this one actually has like a record button right on it. And so some of these microphones are so smart that record the audio right here, which is good if you're not making a lot of clips. But if you're making a lot of clips, it's really hassle if you're recording the audio separately and then on the camera and then on the microphone, and you got to sync them up. Ugh, so much time. Hate it. Hate syncing up my audio with my video. Later, I try to just record it all at the same time. Okay, and the last type of microphone that you might want to consider is what they call a boom microphone, and this is actually what I'm using right here in this room. This is a picture of what's right above my head right here. As I tap on it, that's the microphone. That's right up there. If you like have a setup, you're at home, you like the closer you can get the microphone to you, the better the video is going to sound. Or if you're on location, you could do something like this, particularly if you're going to be like at a restaurant and you've got time to like set something up and like you're working with the restaurant or something like that. You could be like, oh, is it cool if I like bring in a mic stand and put a microphone over your head? And then they'll be like, how's it that these Anthony Bourdain videos, Anthony Bourdain always sounds so good? You know, because he's got a microphone 2 inches out of the frame that you don't see. That's how he sounds so so good, and that's why your video doesn't sound so good, because you're trying to record off this cell phone microphone that just picks up all the noise in the restaurant. Nobody can hear you over everything else in there. Okay. Is this a, Alex says, I can confirm that Chris does not even like In-N-Out, Drew. Is this April Fool's Day or something like that? That's funny. Okay. The final piece of equipment that's really important is extra batteries. You definitely don't want to be caught without extra batteries. The nice part about the more like professional cameras is they have external batteries. So as soon as the battery's done, you can just take the battery out and you can put another battery in and you can keep on going. If I travel with a camera that has removable batteries, I will take 3 or 4 batteries with me on the trip. On this DJI Osmo Pocket 3, this bottom piece right here is a battery handle. So I have a couple extra battery handles that I can take off and charge with. And then for my phone, I travel with a battery bank, a 10,000 milliamp Samsung battery bank to keep the phone charged up when I'm shooting with that. And I'll keep that charged up between shots. Okay, next, let's go on to module 3, which is briefly just to talk about some key settings and concepts on your camera that you'll want to dial in before you go. But before I do that, let's hit up a few comments in the chat. The Fandom Traveler says, "Good day, mate. Happy Wednesday from Australia." Thank you, Jake. The Fandom Traveler, good to see you, Fandom Traveler, says, "Did you add any sound dampening to your room to cut down on echo and reflection?" Not in this room. And if you haven't seen it, Fandom Traveler, I've, well, not frankly in any room. I haven't put any sound dampening material, but I'll talk about what's in here in a moment. If you haven't seen it, I do have a video that tours you through both of my live stream studio setups, this room, and then kind of my editing suite. This room is carpeted. There's carpet, there's a sofa, there's a lot of stuffed animals back there. There's a lot of things in this room that tend to just dampen the sound, but then also the Sennheiser 416, I think, something like that. This boom microphone is also really good at just kind of picking up the first sound rather than the echo. So no, but if you have like hardwood floors and things like that, then like, yeah, putting down carpet and Curtis Judd is a really great YouTuber who talks about audio stuff. And like, if this was his room, he would put like sound blankets on either side of him and all that stuff. But I think if you get a good microphone, I don't think you need to do that. Jet and Compass says, "How do I get better audio from my Pocket 3 mic?" Well, I don't know what's wrong with the audio that you're getting. It's hard for me to see how it is or what it sounds like or where you're placing it. But I would say that like the best placement for this microphone is right about here. And so if it's further down on you, like it's down here, it's not going to pick you up very well. And it's also not very good clipped up here on the shirt. I see a lot of people do this. And when you do this, then it's going to pick up a lot of sound that's really throaty. It's not like getting the audio out of your mouth. Instead, it's picking up your throat. So figure out how you can have it about here. You'll always, generally, I'm wearing my sling bag, and so I clip this onto my sling bag. If not, then I use the magnet on this, and I stick this magnet underneath my shirt right there, and I do that, and then there we go. That's how, and I kind of have to position it a few times to like get it into the right place. But that's my recommendation for you. All right. Eileen says, "My musician friends can vouch for filling your room with stuffed animals to dampen the echo." Awesome, Eileen. I'm glad the pros agree. Han, good to see you again. Good to see you at VidCon too. Han says, "How do you stabilize film footage while walking? Special device software." Osmo Pocket 3 is generally what I use, and it's got the gimbal, so it's stabilized. You can also use like, there's stabilization stuff that you can use like Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro. I have used that on occasion, but I find that like, well, certainly it'll crop your footage in, so you need to make sure then that you're getting things wide enough to do that. All right. Points Traveler says, "Is there any country you've been with that's very inquisitive about the amount of equipment that you travel with?" I certainly have had, like, going through like TSA or things like that. Sometimes they're like, you know, your backpack looks like a Best Buy shelf. And I'm like, I know it does. I often have a lot of my equipment in like different bags inside of my bag, and I'll take them out when I go through the x-ray screening so that like all my cables I have in a separate bag and my batteries I have in a separate bag, so that when it goes through, if they've got an issue with something, there's just less of my stuff that they have to look through and they don't have to rifle through all of it. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the 8 points that we're going through. We have talked about ideation, we've talked about camera gear. Now let's talk about mastering your camera, the settings, and some of the key concepts behind it. This is one where like the pros, you know, will say like, oh, it's really important that I could get this camera because it's got all these knobs on it, and I can change the ISO, and I can change the aperture, and I can fiddle with the manual focus, and I can get all these switches and things over here, which like, they are really useful. And when I sit here and do this video in the studio, I fiddle with all those switches and different knobs and dial it in to get it perfect. But when you're a one-person crew, you are recording yourself at the same time. You need to put all those settings pretty much on auto most of the time, and you only use these settings when you're looking at your auto video, going like, oh, something for this doesn't look right. Either like I'm trying not to focus on my face because I want to focus on something back there, or the colors are off, or something's off. So we'll talk about those just so that you can use them in those emergency areas. So the three main kind of like camera snob settings that relate to your actual like image are aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. So aperture is measured in this thing called f-stop, and the aperture is the opening size of the lens. It controls like how much light passes through, kind of like the pupil of your eye as it grows and shrinks. In addition to knowing that like that's how much like light that it lets in that size, the aperture also affects the focus depth. What does that mean? So like in this video, most everything is in focus. The background is a little bit more out of focus, but you know, when I put something up here in the front right here, now if I go here, it's autofocus. Now my face is out of focus and the background's really out of focus. That's what they call bokeh. And like professional camera people will they like that look. They like certain things that are in focus. They like other things that are out of focus. The depth of field and the lower f-stop, the shallower depth of field, and the more blurry you can get the background while still having the subject in focus. If you're buying like, fancier lenses, the fancier, more expensive lenses will have a lower f-stop so you can get more of that blur. For beginner videography, having something that has a shallow depth of field can really be a challenge because you can get it such that like someone's nose can be in focus, but their eyes aren't. So be careful if you're adjusting those things. The next one, shutter speed. This is back in the day when there was like an actual shutter that would open and close, how many times it would open and close. And so this determines the amount of a fractions of a second that is sampled to create each frame of the video. And then ISO measures the camera's sensitivity to light. This is back from when we were using film cameras. There was ISO for film. A low ISO value generally means the sensor is less sensitive, requiring more light for proper exposure. And a high ISO value makes the camera more sensitive for light, allowing shooting in low light conditions, but generally more noise in the image. The general aim is to keep the ISO as low as possible to have a good image quality. Okay. Other thing to pay attention to in settings for cameras is your frame rate, or FPS, and this is often one of four numbers: 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or 120 frames per second. If you are in Europe, generally 24 frames per second is what most video is shot in. Most movies are shot in 24 frames per second. In North America, television is shot in 30 frames per second. I shoot in 30 frames per second. This is what most people are used to when they look at video, movies, 24 or 30 frames per second. If you want to do slow motion, if you want to slow it down, then you'll want to shoot more frames per second, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, and higher. I think this is one where when you look at the more pro cameras and you start getting into these cameras that are multi-thousands of dollars, things they can do over something like this is higher resolution, slower motion. So, you know, not just 30 frames per second, not just 60, not just 120 frames per second, 240 frames per second in 4K, high resolution. But of course, as you do that, it's going to make your file sizes much, much, much bigger. Okay, the other setting to pay attention to is white balance. And so, what's the white balance? The white balance is whatever color the camera thinks is white, and then it judges all the other colors based upon that. If you kind of have an image and you're like, the colors don't look right, then you probably want to adjust the white balance. So like when I look up at this camera right here, it tells me on the screen, the one I'm shooting with, what it considers white right now, and 3,800K. White is measured in K. It measured at 3,800K as the white balance that is currently set at. And then manual focus or autofocus is a great question. So you get a camera like this, it's got this little thing you can turn on the front to like change the focal to where you're focusing on. If you're recording on your cell phone, it usually has a thing you can tap to just click and tap to focus on a thing. This camera that I'm recording this live stream on has eye autofocus, and so it's a Sony camcorder. On the screen, it detects my eye. I can see a little box around my eye on the screen. And so wherever that box is wherever it focuses is, which is really what you want for a solo production, like sitting like this. I'm not in this room, but this is when I'm in my editing bay. And so in that case, I don't want to be fiddling with the focus, because if I'm adjusting the manual focus and I move farther away and I move closer, in this case, this is gonna auto focus on me. Viet T on the live stream says, I wanted to be a photographer, but I couldn't focus. All right, there we go. Love the photography jokes. All right, and Janelle says, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it. Yes, if you are enjoying the video, please like it. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm to let YouTube know that you like this video so other people can share it. I see about 90 people on the live stream and about 60 likes, so I'd love to be able to get that up to, get that up to 90. So please hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Thank you to Janelle wearing her Yellow Productions crew shirt right there. Okay. Oh, I will say one thing to know with this eye autofocus and where it's kind of annoying is when you're holding something up that you want it to focus on, like when I wanted it to focus on this mouse. And for dear life, it's not gonna focus on this mouse like this because it's got eye autofocus. And the only way to get it to focus on the mouse is to put it in front of my face. Or some cameras, in autofocus, you can change it to do what sometimes they call product placement mode, where what it focuses on is the closest thing, not just on faces. The other thing you'll see people do too is they'll hold their hand out and then they'll put the item near their hand like that. So then it'll focus on that and not the face. All right, tricks of the autofocus trade. The final setting in your camera is video quality and codec. So you hear these things like 1080, 4K. This is the amount of pixels per frame. 4K is what I generally shoot all of my videos in. If you're doing shorts, 1080 is probably good. 8K I feel is a league that most people's editing computers just today really struggle with. So in the future, I'm sure more people go there. But the YouTube space tends to really be 1080 or 4K as the bread and butter of most content. If you're targeting people watching on television, which a lot of people who watch travel videos watch on television, 4K definitely the place to be. For this live stream, it takes a lot of data to live stream in 4K. So I actually live stream in 1440p, which is halfway between 1080 and 4K. And I shoot this live stream at 60 frames per second, just to give YouTube a little bit more data to integrate that video. Okay, so now that you know all about the settings, last thing I'll say about settings, this isn't about them, but it's about get all your settings set before you go on your trip. Fiddle with all your knobs, fiddle with these things, get your resolution set, get your frame rate set, and that's what you're gonna shoot with on the trip. Because if you haven't bothered to do all that, it's not. You'll shoot your footage and you'll be like, it doesn't look good, the resolution's all wrong, I can't hear myself. So figure all that out before you leave home. G says, The frame rate, do you stick to one setting? Yeah, so if you're the other thing that of all these settings, if you're using multiple devices, is to make sure you're using the same resolution and frame rate across all of your devices. Otherwise, it'll just look really wacky. So for me, 4K, 30 frames per second is what I shoot across all of my devices. Unless I'm shooting in slow motion, then I'll ramp it up to 60 or 120 frames per second. Thank you for that question, G. Kid Blue says 8K if you want to see pores and freckles. Yeah, nobody wants to see all of my pores and freckles. Okay. So the fourth thing to know about how to make travel videos that you're actually proud of and that people want to watch is about how to compose your shot. Once you've actually got the camera out and you're holding it someplace and you're shooting something, where do you put things? And so in basic videography school and photography school, they talk about this thing called the rule of thirds. And they basically say to take your scene and divide it into thirds. So you see these lines that are on here. We've got 1, 2, like that. Those lines, that divides it. 1, 2, 3. Those are thirds that way. Yeah, they're also thirds, this way, right? So 1, 2, 3. And so the things that people are going to look at the most are going to be right here in the center. But sometimes you don't want things centered. Sometimes you want to put things off center. And so then you want to think about, how is, if your subject was a person like this, right? Right in the middle is a pretty good place for them. If they're not in the middle, over on the side is a pretty good place for them. Or right along one of these lines can be a pretty good place for them. But where you don't want to put them is over here on the edge, kind of looking in, it's kind of weird. If you've got, we're going to talk about headroom in a moment, but if you've got a person in it and a head, you don't want to put their head down here. That'd be really weird. You generally kind of stick people's heads, up here on this kind of third line. And then there's this kind of notion of leading line, saying how do you guide where people's eyes look? Thinking about a shot like this, where do your eyes look? Your eyes tend to look over here, right? The road gives you a leading line to look over that way. Okay. So if you're say you're doing a thumbnail and it's got 2 people in it, the Curious Princess and I in that thumbnail that I showed you before at the shot of art, I was over here and the Curious Princess with her long hair, she was over here, and the teddy bear was over there. That's it. There's my stick art, right? So that was kind of the setup of that. Okay. Headroom. This is one where headroom's really important. And so I've got 3 examples of headroom, 2 that are not so great, 1 that's great. This is an example of not enough headroom. What do I mean by not enough headroom? Do you see the top of my head's cut off, which might work okay for a thumbnail, but for a video's weird. If this live stream right here, if I was doing this live stream the whole time, kind of like this, you'd be like, Chris, there's something wrong, something wrong with the positioning of your camera. So you want to have a bit of headroom, but not too much headroom. So you want to pay attention to where people's heads are in the frame. As you look at this is too much. Too much headroom. Why, Chris, why are you all the way down there? It'd be the same thing if I was doing this video and I was down here all the time. You'd be like, Chris, why are you down there? You got so much room in this frame. And so having people's heads nicely towards the top, but not all the way on the top, enough headroom, not too much, is composition shot 1 to think of when you've got people in it and you, stick them on that thirds. There you go, right? So looking at that. And in this case, I put the subject right there in the center, and I put me on kind of one of those lines. Okay. The other thing to look at when you're composing your shot is depth and perspective. So this picture here of Mount Fuji has a lot more depth and perspective than just this picture, although this picture has some, but we'll see one for a moment that doesn't in a moment. But when you look at this shot, and this is not just a picture, but we had a video that was over here, there's certainly us, which you could go, well, that's the subject. But you can also go, well, is that the subject? Or is Mount Fuji the subject? But Mount Fuji is there. And then there's also like the city that's over here kind of that you can see too. And you can see these hills over this way. So there's a lot of visual interest from the shot because of all these different layers and then the perspective that you get. An example of something that doesn't have much depth or perspective is this shot where I'm standing in front of a wall. And I see this is a mistake that so many people make because you have no perspective as to where this is or what's around this. So many people, they shoot at restaurants and they, if they're like sitting at a table and the table has like a wall on one side and it has the restaurant on the other side, they will sit with the wall behind them with the camera pointed at them. And I'm like, this is the most boring shot ever because all I see is I see the wall behind this person. And the much more interesting shot is if you flip around so that you're sitting looking at the wall and the camera's looking out, looking at the back of the restaurant. Now, you do have to be confident with the fact that when you're at this restaurant, it's going to look weird, especially if you're by yourself, that you're sitting there looking at the wall with your camera pointed at you, but that's going to make the video. If you watched my Tacos El Frank video recently, that's absolutely what I did. I had a corner table, and anybody in their right mind, they would sit with their back facing the wall in the corner, because that's where you would sit if you're one person. But not me. Turn it around. And I'm like, because the camera needs to see the restaurant. It's much more interesting. Okay. In the chat, I saw some things about people focused on my hokas in the hokas in the Mount Fuji video. And right there. Yeah. Here, let's make that bigger. The hokas. Yeah, there we go. That's right. We got the hokas right there. Hoka Bondi, size 14. All right. Okay. So, as you're shooting footage, it's also important to shoot a variety of scenes, not just the one scene. So there's often like 3 styles of shots that people talk about to build a shot. The wide shot, or establishing shots, a medium shot, that's a little bit more close in, and then a close-up to get the action. And this is one where, when you watch videos, or you don't watch videos, or you're not proud of your videos, it's probably only got one. And you're like, where is this, or where's this thing? So I got a series of 3 pictures here just to kind of show you what that looks like on our Father's Day Surrey ride with the Curious Princess. So we took the Surrey out in San Pedro. This is an example of an establishing shot. It's a wide shot. You can see the Surrey that we're on. You can see some of the other Surreys there. So like, this is the stuff. We rented it. We just started. I've got this shot for you here. And then we get a medium shot right here, which is like us from the waist up. You can kind of like look at that and be like, don't those two look like they're having a good time on the Surrey. And then we go in for a close-up shot right there of the Curious Princess. And as we do this as a video, I did this one as a short, so it was a tall thing, but like we did a scene about like recording behind her, so we could see like, her going this way, close up, get that reaction in front of the head, back of the head. But those 3 shots build on each other so that by the time you get to this shot, you like understand kind of how this all came together. Okay. And then reaction shots. So we had an ice cream, and you think about like, okay, well, as you shoot the ice cream, and like as we look at this one here, okay, so that's like, that's a good ice cream shot right there. But you know what? The better shot, right? The one that's like really good and interesting for the video is then, as the videographer, you would say to the Curious Princess, stick out your tongue. Lick that ice cream and stick out your tongue. And then get that zoom in of the stick out on the tongue, right? And that gives you that perspective about like, man, that looks like a delicious ice cream, right? Delicious ice cream. All right. Cool. Okay. The other thing when you think about shots is then creating motion in your shots. How are they not just photos? I know I'm showing you a lot of photos. There's motion in these shots. How do they not just look like photos in one place, or motion photos, but when you watch movies, there's a lot of motion of the camera. Certainly one is driving scenes, biking scenes. You just get some motion with the camera. But the other things to think about, you got a camera, how do you move it? And so beginner mistake number 1, and it's the dad cam mistake, and it comes from these things, is the pan, is having the camera and panning across like this. The worst looking footage usually is the pan where it just turns. Look, they can be used well. You can use a pan for good things, but usually when people see the camera turn like this, they just think of the shaky handheld camcorder footage. And so to make your footage look more cinematic, instead of panning like that, you want to move the camera sideways like this, sideways like this. Or you want to move the camera in and out. And in and out. And the way you might get that whole scene, because the reason why people do a pan is they want to show you, like, look at this big thing. But the other way is you back up and you use a wider angle, and you get that, and then you cut, to something that's a little bit more zoomed in, or you can have, you can cut, you can move the camera, and you can zoom too. If you have a zoom, or if you have a zoom on your phone, use the zoom. I use the zoom quite a bit. Certainly if you have an actual camcorder or a zoom lens, using that zoom on there, it's pretty good. It's making a comeback again. Zooms are making a comeback again. But also if you've got a phone, that's got the different zoom buttons that are on it, wide, this and that, use those. Start with the wide zoom. Let's see if I can do this. Start with the wide zoom, and then, here, zoom in. Whoop, just like that. Oh, look at all those pores on my head. Yeah, so, and even though on a phone, it's kind of like a digital wacky zoom, it's still you just used to get that perspective about I was here, whoa, and now we zoomed in. So use those effects. The other thing that sometimes people do, you see this on a lot of shorts, is the reveal, where maybe they might have the camera down at the table and then they whip it up quickly, or they'll go here and then they whip it over this way quickly. It's the new pan. If you want to show I'm starting here, but look over there, right? And you do that quick thing. It feels more pro than the, oh, look what's over there. So, all right. Henry, thank you so much for your support. Henry says, what are your thoughts on 8K videos on YouTube? Will you be uploading a short 8K video sometime just to see how everything is? Thoughts, thanks. Henry, I currently have no devices that shoot in 8K. So I haven't dove into that whole ecosystem yet. So until I get one of those cameras, the answer is probably no. I don't feel a lot of people even have the equipment to watch 8K either. So I feel like 8K is still a number of years off until we start seeing 8K televisions in people's living rooms. And there's probably somebody on here who's like, Chris, I've got an 8K television. Very few. So I think it's still years away to really have 8K be an important thing for videos on YouTube. Kathy says, I would get dizzy if you move the camera so quickly. You might think that, Kathy, but you actually wouldn't. It has to be done well. It has to be moved really quickly, because then the shot, you don't even notice the movement, because it just, it's almost like a snap over here. It has to be whoop, super quick. It just, on the camera, it ends up looking like 2 frames or something like that. All right. Casey hates YouTube. Chris, do you remember me and my dad, Ben Murphy? Casey, I certainly remember you here on the live streams. Good to see you again. Casey says, would you ever go to a Japanese head spa in Japan and tell us if it's worthy, a head spa? I'm not sure what a head spa is. I've been to a lot of hot springs though. I like hot springs, so all right. The secret sauce to making interesting videos is not just having a lot of talking head videos for your travel, but to having B-roll. B-roll are shots that really isn't the main action. It's not the person talking, but it's to have the character of the city or the place. And so if I'm talking about Tokyo, maybe to set up where I'm standing, it might start with this. I might have a little bit of this to be it's a wet day here in Japan today. And then you see this. So, A-roll on your it's called A-roll and B-roll because when people do editing, the A-roll was the main track, and then the B-roll is typically the stuff that you layer on top of it after you've assembled all of your talking head shots. Okay. So as you're creating your idea and you're thinking about how I'm going out, I think it's also important, if you're doing something ahead, you're playing an informational thing or you're doing a documentary, to come up with the idea of where you want to get some of your shots. And so in the Google Doc or things like that, think about okay, these are where I want to shoot these particular segments. All right, fifth of 8 areas that we're gonna talk about, and I gotta pick up the pace here because we're just about at our hour. So we're gonna go. It's gonna be a bonus 15 more minutes on this video. Module 5 is lighting and audio on location. So the other thing that makes like a travel video that you're not proud of is not just if it's shaky or not just people can't hear you, but if people can't see you. If people can't see you or people can't see the thing, it's not going to be very good. And so, you know, if you're trying to shoot this sunset, this is one, and you talking in front of the sunset, maybe it's not going to work. There's just not, unless you've got a special light on you, the sun's gonna overpower what your face is and you'll just look like a shadow. This is one where like you would want to talk about the sunset with like you looking at the sunset, but if the sun was back here, then the camera this way looking at you, and then the B-roll of the sunset over there. Look how the sunset, it's so beautiful. That might be where you do a pan, you know, where you're talking about it like this. You're like, oh man, it's beautiful here in Los Angeles. Take a look at that sunset, and then you turn the camera around like this to point to that sunset. So when you get someplace, because you can't control the light when you're making travel videos in a restaurant, outside, you don't know where the sun is, you don't know where there's cloudy, you don't know where there's gonna be this. You need to sit there and you need to go like, okay, I'm gonna shoot a scene here. Where's the light? Where's the light good? Where's this coming from? Where's the sun? Where are the lights inside? Are they up here? Are they down there? Is there a window? Is it too dark? Where can I do my shot where too many people won't bug me? Where can I put my tripod? Where is security not going to hassle me? These are all considerations you have to do when you're outside in the outside world that I don't have to do here. I don't have to do here because I've got permanent lights that are put up here. I've got this light that shines in the back wall to make it blue. I've got 2 big soft boxes that's up here. I got this little tube light back here to make the purple here. So that's what makes the shot. And if I turn off some of these lights, the shot's not as good. Like here, let me turn off this light that's over here. Okay. That light's off. Now that you see that light's off, oh, this doesn't look as good anymore, does it? This is what a shot would look like if you're sitting next to a really bright window in a really dark restaurant. And so then if you were trying to go for something out of the Joker or Batman, this might be good. But if not, then you would want to angle the shot more like this. And you'd actually probably want to bring the camera over here so that the light comes from a bit more behind the camera. Oh, you can't see it. Here, okay, this is what that looks like. This is the like half dark, and then this is rotating over here, which you can see lights up my face a bit better because the light comes from over here. Okay, I'm gonna turn this light back on. All right, we have light. Okay, rain. What about rain? What about a rainy day? Rain is awful. Rain is awful for video. You might need someone to hold an umbrella over the camera. OC Girl and I have done that before, where I was like, I need to shoot this shot. Can you hold an umbrella over me? Audio. We talked about if you're in a noisy environment, using the onboard camera is not going to be good. Having a microphone, using the onboard microphone is not going to be good. It's going to pick up so much noise. Using something that's on you going to be a lot better. You want to find places to record that you're away from wind. If you can't get away from the wind because you're outside, and you got the microphone here, you will want to put the wind behind you so that the wind comes behind you and your body acts as a wind block with the microphone right centered on it. Then the wind won't be blowing on it. Then you won't hear it. You want to get away from leaf blowers, and you want to get away from gardeners. You want to get away from music. Oh my gosh, music in restaurants, music at Disneyland, commercial, copywritten music, the death for your YouTube video because it gets copyright striked and no bueno. If a restaurant or a place knows we're coming, we ask them to turn off the music. The video that we did at the Shot of Art, first thing we got in there was loud music playing, and I'm like, can you turn the music off? It's like, yeah, Chris, you're the only one here, so yeah, absolutely, I can. And then we talked about if I needed to come back and shoot some other stuff, and he was like, okay, well, Chris, if you want to do that, you need to turn the music off again. Then we need to figure out what that time is, but that's important. Okay, some things to think about is also collecting ambient sound, like street sounds. Like, what does the street sound like? What does the nature sound like? Birds chirping. Maybe you're in an Airbnb and you're gonna have tea in the morning, and so capturing like the tea kettle, like the whistle of the tea kettle, is something that you can add in to just add that extra, like, or there's roosters in the background, you know, like putting the rooster set. You might go out and record the rooster, and then as you're waking up in the morning, and then that sound of the rooster crowing, you add that to the thing of you waking up in the morning. Even though they didn't exactly happen at the same time, they add that interesting character to, like, cock-a-doodle-doo. Oh, this person sounds like they're getting up on a farm, you know. But it was like, it'd be impossible to time that perfectly. Okay. Now, let's talk about number 6, which is actually, what do you do when you press the record button? And so the first thing to know about making engaging travel content is that the order that it ends up in your edit or the final product doesn't necessarily have to be the same order that you recorded in. And for my videos, it is almost not. Because, like, the introduction in my shot list, I'll have a shot later on, like, on the 3rd day, that I'm like, I want to record the introduction at this place because it's the most scenic, and I'm not going there first, so I'm not recording the introduction there first. But you might have to think in your head about, like, but how do I make sure these things flow? If I'm not going to shoot my introduction shot until 3 days later, you know, what is it that I would say there so that then this first thing that I'm recording that maybe goes after that actually flows together. I personally will review my notes before a scene. When I talk, I try to pretend it's a conversation, like I'm talking to a real person right here, or in this case, I'm talking to 99 people, which hey, that's cool. By the way, we're up to 81 likes now, so 9 more will get us to 90. If you haven't liked it yet, please do so on the live stream. On the archive, please like it too. Those likes help me out as well. Now, sometimes it requires multiple takes. You know, sometimes I'll be out here and I gotta do take 1, I gotta do take 2, and I gotta do take 3. I was shooting a video that's gonna come out here in a couple days for a video about zippered versus zipperless luggage. Which one's better? And I shot the introduction to that like 20 times because I was looking for the perfect introduction. By the way, if you're a channel member and you support the channel monthly because you joined it, I will compile those bloopers up and post them a little later in the week, so you can see my 20 attempts at the introduction to that video. It's also interesting to like mix up the visual variety about how you do things, and obviously on this live stream, these studio shots, these things like this, I tend to just sit here. But on my things that are out in location, you know, I might do some that are handheld. I might do some on the tripod. I might do some that are like walking scenes that I walk. I might do things where, like, you know, I might, like, if starting the video, like a great way to start the video might be to actually like come on and like walk on and be like, hey everybody, for Mr. Who's the Boss, for anybody who watches him, he famously does these scenes where like the way he starts the video is, you know, he pops into the video and like pops down on that right, and at the beginning you're like, oh, all right, that's very cool. And my final note about shooting it is to always make sure you get a few extra seconds at the beginning and end of your shot. So if you're shooting something and it's 5 seconds long, record a couple seconds before and record a couple seconds afterwards, because in the edit to transition to things, it's useful to have a little bit of extra footage in there. And when I'm recording a clip, generally my basic minimum for recording a clip is about 10 seconds. I don't record anything less than 10 seconds. I record for 10 seconds if I'm recording a sunset or whatever. Okay. Mark in the chat, thank you for your support. Mark says, what editing software do you use? Fantastic question, Mark. So let's go ahead and talk about editing software right here. The editing software that I use, so this is Module 7, how do you bring it all together? Basic editing software. The editing software that I personally use is Adobe Premiere if I'm editing on Windows, and I use Final Cut Pro if I'm editing on my Mac, and I use CapCut if I'm editing on my Android, my iPhone, or on my iPad. So those are all kind of paid things. Adobe Premiere has a monthly fee. Final Cut Pro has a one-time fee. CapCut is free, but if you want to use the advanced features, it's something like $10 a month. If you have a Mac, you can use Apple iMovie for free. If you have a Windows computer, you can use DaVinci Resolve for free. You can also use CapCut on your desktop devices too for free or paid. I probably like, if you're interested, I don't know, like editing, I could probably do a whole video just about editing. So if you're interested in like a deeper dive on editing, then let me know, and I'll consider doing that for a future video. Finally, I just want to offer you some quick fire wisdom from the road. This is my module 8 final tips, and then we'll go to final Q&A. One of the best ways to make travel videos that you're proud of and that other people want to watch is to get inspiration from other people's travel videos. How do they do it? What's their shot composition? What's their editing style? Now that you've listened to me talk about all these things, and you can look at the different shots and you can try to figure out like, oh, I see their microphone and things like that. Where do they have it? Where do they place it? Where's the sun? What's the lighting look like? How could that have been done different? To practice skill in videography, and then delivering confidently to camera takes time. So your first attempts won't be perfect, but that's entirely normal. To not be afraid to make mistakes. If your first one you're not proud of, that's okay. Iterate, and you'll get prouder as you go. To focus on the experience and the story. To shoot smarter and not always more. You don't need tons and tons of footage. If you've thought about what the idea is, you just need to get the shots that make that idea come together in life. To always carry more batteries than you need, and to carry more storage than you need, SD cards, hard drives, things like that, to offload your footage. If you're out and about, I highly recommend that you back up your footage from your cameras and devices every day. And while you're on the road, to upload it to the cloud someplace. Google Drive, Amazon Photos, I don't really care what you use. I use Google Drive personally, and yes, I pay dearly for the extra storage, but that way if my devices get lost, stolen, broken, then at least every day I have a copy of what I had recorded that day. To be respectful while you're out and about recording, so that you're not the obnoxious travel influencer, and overall, just enjoy it. I think, people, and you can be more proud of a video when you watch it and you're like, I looked like I was enjoying that. So make sure you do it. You have a good time. All right, let's go to Q&A.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
All right, Mark Goodkin offers some thoughts about what he uses to back up his stuff. He says he uses OneDrive and he uses Apple Cloud, both good solutions. Thank you for suggesting those. Brandon says Google Drive is a great place for photos and video storage. Remy says, what do you think using Meta Ray-Ban glasses that allow you to record your travels? Remy, I know some people who have them and they like them for like incognito shots or something like that. I don't think the quality's great, and I don't think the stability's great, so that's why I don't personally use them. Viet says, when you back up daily using hotel Wi-Fi or roaming data, hotel Wi-Fi every day to back up. And I back up with I back up on my MacBook Pro. Like, actually, I was just backing up, just copying some footage over right now. I'm not on the road, but transferring the files over, and then I use the Google Drive desktop application to sync a folder from my Mac. I do it on Windows too, so that then just all the files that I copy over there get uploaded to Google Drive. One Take Situation says, thank you for the storage management. My pleasure at One Take Situations. Mark says, how do you deal with motion blur? I shoot at 60 frames per second, but still move the camera slowly. I guess still move the camera slowly. I mean, if I'm doing a pan, or this, if I want to go slow, I go slow. If I want to go fast, I go fast. So I tend... but I feel like I feel like if you're going in and out, or you're going left and right, then you tend not to get as much motion blur as when you do the pan like that. So it's me, Laura says, I moved to DaVinci Resolve, but I do at times upload back in iMovie for their free audio. I also miss the Ken Burns focus. I have to do some more editing to recreate in DaVinci. The Ken Burns zooms are pretty neat. I use that in Final Cut all the time. Thank you for your workflow, Laura. Masood says, hello, Chris. Have you been to Sonora, California? No, not yet. Should I go? What's there to see? Cashew says, I sell Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses. I'm not a fan. Thank you for the personal perspective. My dad, Electric Rick, says, do you ever use any lens filters, such as new density filter or polarizing filters? No, the only real, and it's not even a lens filter, the only like filter that I use is it's not a filter, but let me turn this around, is the, in here, in here there's a wide angle attachment for the this for this, it like magnetically goes on right there, but carrying other filters is just more gear to carry around and to get lost and to fall off my things. And I don't know, my videos tend to be more, I feel like, informative and about the place and less cinematic. If I was maybe making a legitimate like travel movie that was more like the movie thing, I was trying to create a mood, I would maybe use more of those filters, but I don't know that they would add tons to the type of content that I make. Jonathan says, how do you change the settings in Premiere Pro so that you adjust the timing of a clip? All the other clips move along with it, like in Premiere Rush and iMovie. I don't have an answer for you, Jonathan. I just, when I adjust that, then I drag them over. Yeah, Premiere doesn't have the magnetic timeline the same way that Final Cut and some of these other things do. So that's pros and cons of things. If somebody else has another answer, let me know. That's maybe a more proficient Premiere editor than I am. Drew asks if I use a stock video website subscription. Storyblocks. We use Storyblocks for our B-roll. Han says, 3 most transformative discoveries from all your travels, please. Ooh, Han, that's deep. And without like immense thought, just off the top of my head, one, I'll say traveling to Japan, that's transformative, is that trains and buses can actually be great forms of transportation. Growing up in California, I was like super anti public transportation, and like I feel like a lot of people in the USA are that way. There's gonna be some people who live in New York City and DC and Boston who's like, Chris, not us, but like a lot of people, trust me, the public transit in the USA, really bad. Han, I'm sure you know. And so I'm like, oh, public transportation can actually be really good, and it can be clean, it can be nice, and it can be a great way to get around. So I'm really supportive of like transit projects in the USA that I might not have been otherwise. I would say a second one is like, it's very easy, being in whatever country, to look at like immigrants who can't speak the local language as like uneducated or things like that, because like you must know that. But I like world travel has been like, well, those people, they're not uneducated. They came to seek a new life and do different things, and they're very well educated, and there's educated people all across this world that don't speak my language. And so, you know, just because they could have been a doctor or a lawyer someplace else, but they can't get board certified when they come to the USA, and so now they take a different profession. But really to see, you know, everybody is like, I don't know, interesting, valuable person to like learn their story as to why they got here and what they're doing. Those are my two. So I could probably be a video all of its own. Cashew says, how does OC Girl have such a steady professional hand at filming? I guess after 20 years now of running camera, she's just developed that steady hand. Sometimes she gets tired though. She's like, I'm so tired of holding this camera, which is why we've gone to these smaller ones from these bigger ones. This one weighs, this Sony weighs 5 times the DJI Osmo Pocket, so she doesn't get nearly as tired holding this. Alex says, is there a published price in the new Peak Design tripod? I know there's a few different size options. There are 3 different size options. I think the one I got, which was the middle size option, was like $800 from Kickstarter. It is more than the travel tripod, yeah, which is surprising. Masood says I should do a video about gold mining history. Thank you for the suggestion, Masood. I'll put that on my idea list. Black Oak Casino is near Sonora. I went to elementary school in Soulsbyville. Mark says, do you have a go-to site for copyright-free music? We tend to use Epidemic Sound. You gotta pay like for a license for it. The other one that I use if I don't want to pay sometimes, I don't have something I have on there, there's a reason why I really want to be royalty-free, is it's by Kevin McLeod. If you search like Kevin and then McLeod, MCLEOD, royalty-free music, like put that into Google search, you'll get a whole site of this dude that made like all this cool royalty-free music. Laura says, the Tim trackers use the Meta glasses, but he was saying they're heavy, so I'm unsure about buying them based on that. Points Traveler says, would you do a travel video on Amtrak? Zephyr, maybe. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people do their Amtrak videos, and they get a lot of views, but I don't know that I want to suffer on Amtrak for a long time. Remy says, have you been to the Jurassic World experience in Singapore? Not yet, but I want to. I also want to go to the new bird park in Singapore, and the new, like, Africa Zoo or something in Singapore, too. Like, so, looking forward to that, but last trip I was there was just before the new bird park opened. Jonathan says you should do a video about tips on traveling internationally, like clearing customs and immigration, visas, and more. Jonathan, thank you. I'll put that in the idea bin as well.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right, fellow explorers, in every live stream, I always give away a Yellow Productions crew shirt to someone who can answer one of my questions. And my question for you today is, there was a picture that the Curious Princess and I were in. What was on our shirts? We were wearing matching shirts. We were matchy-matchy on our shirts. What was on our shirts? If you can answer that question, you're the first person to answer it. You'll win that Yellow Productions crew shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. Well, not that one, but a new one. And if you don't get to win one and you want to buy one, you can do so at the Yellow Productions shop. You'll find the link here on the screen or in the description below. And if you wonder when is the next live stream, you can sign up for my email list where I'll email you every time I have decided the topic and the time, so you never miss another live stream. Head over to update.yellow-productions.com to sign up for that. Okay, so this is a hard question. It's a hard question that I got here. What was on our shirts? And let's see. So some things that aren't right answers. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead to some of this. People guessing things. Joe said shot of art. No, that was a place we went to. Kat says crew. No. Tina said flowers. No. Viet says ice cream on the face. No, that wasn't it. Flowers. Hawaiian. Yeah, they were Hawaiian shirts, but there was something on the shirt. What was on the shirt? Happy face. Traveling princess shirt. Pandas. Colors. No. What was on the shirt? If you're the first person to tell me what was on the shirt, our matching Aloha shirts, then you will win a Yellow Productions crew shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. All right, who was the first person? Ooh, Viet T was the first person to be close. Flamingos. Viet, and obviously because I put the picture up. Viet, I'm gonna give you one. You get one shirt. Panjo, all right, coming in second place. Panjo was the first person to spell it correctly, so Panjo, you win two, and we'll go to number 3 as well on this one. Grant Yenny also said flamingo, so congratulations to the 3 of you, Viet, Panjo, and Grant. I'll get those Yellow Productions crew shirts headed out to you. Just send me an email to chris@yellow-productions.com. Let me know your size and your address, and you got a shirt coming right at you. All right, fellow explorers. As usual, pleasure to hang out with you today. And I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you in the next video.